Hi my dear children, welcome back to our YouTube class. So today we are going to see your next session, that is your next part of your 7th lesson. So what is your 7th lesson name? Your 7th lesson is about animal world, right? So in the first part we saw about what is habitat and the body covering of the animals. So in the second part we saw the body covering of the animals, right? So in the third part we are going to see what we are going to see, because we are going to see the habitat of the animal, right? So the body covering has to be well suited to survive, for the survival of the animal. Likewise the feeding habits, so the place, so habitat means place, right? So the place has to provide food only, right? Then only the animal can able to live in that particular place, right? So if a lion gets a deer, or if a tiger gets a deer as a food, then only the tiger will stay in the forest, right? Otherwise if the animal cannot find food, it will search some other places and they will move on to that particular places, right? So the place that provide food for the animal, so that is also habitat. And in this session we are going to see the feeding habits of the animals. So we cannot say all the animals will eat the same type of food and all the animals will eat the according to the habitat, according to the place of the environment, right? So first we will see, we can say there are animals that they depend for food differently. So some animals they eat plants, some animals they eat flesh, some animals they eat both plants as well as flesh, and some animals they eat the dead animals, decomposed animals, and some animals they eat the nuts from the ground, they will just gnaw the food, and some animals they take the food from the living organisms, right? So that only we are going to see. So first we will see about the animals that they eat only plants and the parts of the plant. So of course in your 3rd standard you might be learned about the eating habits of the animals, right? So this is about in clear way, right? So they are called as herbivorous. So herbivorous animals. So animals like horse, cow, elephant, giraffe, goat, deer. So these animals they eat only plants or the parts of the plant, right? So these animals will not eat flesh. So that is why they are called as herbivores, right? So they eat only plants, right? So herbivore animals. And then some animals they eat only flesh, they will not eat plant products or plant parts or plant foods, they eat only other animals that depend on the flesh of the other animals. So these animals like lion, tiger, vulture, eagle, and then hawk, kite, and then kingfisher. So these animals they eat flesh of other animals. So that is why these animals are called as carnivorous animals, or simply we can say carnivores, right? So they depend on flesh of the other animals. So the next one, omnivores. So omnivores are the animals that they eat both plants as well as flesh of other animals. So example, crow, bear, jackal, and of course human beings. So even human beings we eat both plants as well as flesh of the animals also, right? So we eat chicken, mutton, fish and all, right? So somehow we eat the flesh of the other animals also. So we also come under omnivores, right? So the next one we are going to see is about scavengers. Scavengers, you in your 3rd standard you might be learned only about these 3 things, right? Herbivores, carnivores, omnivores. But scavengers are new to your book, right? It is not given in the textbook, just you have to understand, you have to know about this. So scavengers, what is scavengers? The animals that they eat flesh of the other animals, dead animals. For example, if a deer dies, so some parts of the animal is eaten by a lion. So after that the lion will go off. right, after 1 or 2 days the animal is died, right, and the flesh is decomposed. So that decomposed animals, the animals, they eat the dead animals, the remaining of the dead animals. So example, jackal, vulture, so they eat the dead animals. So they are called as scavengers. And the next one, parasites. Parasites are the animals, they live inside the body of any animal, and they take the food from the living organism. For example, lice, of course. So lice means pain, they will say, right. So likewise we have some worms in the intestine, like maybe hookworm, புழு சொல்வாங்க இல்லையா. ஸோ குடலில் புழு இருக்குன்னு சொல்லுவாங்க இல்லையா. ஸோ அந்த மாதிரியான ஆர்கானிசம்ஸ் எல்லாம் என்ன பண்ணோம் அப்படின்னா, நம்ம வாழ்ந்துட்டுருக்கோம், செத்து போனவங்கலேருந்து எடுக்கிற ஃபுட்டு கிடையாது. ஸோ அந்த லிவிங் ஆர்கானிசம், நம்ம உயிரோடு தான் இருப்போம், நம்ம உயிரோடு இருக்கிற அந்த ஆர்கானிசம் கிட்டேருந்தே என்ன பண்ணோம், பிளட்டை சக் பண்ணி அது உயிர் வாழ்ந்துட்டுருக்கோம். ஸோ அந்த மாதிரியான அனிமல்ஸ் என்னன்னு சொல்லுவாங்க அப்படின்னா பேரசைட்ஸ் அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. ஸோ இப்போ இந்த ஹூக்வார்ம் நம்ம இன்டெஸ்டைனில் இருக்குன்னா, அந்த ஹூக்வார்ம் என்ன பண்ணும், உன்னோட பிளட்டை சக் பண்ணி உன் பிளட்டை ஃபுட்டாக அது சாப்பிட்டுட்டு அது இன்டெஸ்டைனில் உயிர் வாழ்ந்துட்டுருக்கும். அதே மாதிரி தான் தலையில் இருக்கிற பெயின் சொல்லுவாங்க இல்லையா. ஸோ அந்த பெயின் என்ன பண்ணும், நான் உன்னோட பிளட்டை சக் பண்ணி அது சாப்பிட்டு அது உயிர் வாழ்ந்துட்டுருக்கும். ஸோ தே ஈட் த blood or the flesh of the living organisms, right. So and the organism உயிரோடு இருக்கும். So that type of animals are called as parasites, right. So now let's write. So herbivore, Herbivorous, herbivores. So they eat only plant products. Carnivores, Carnivores. Carnivores, they eat only flesh. And omnivores, Omnivores, omnivores. So they eat both plants as well as flesh. The next one, scavengers, Scavengers. So scavengers, the scavengers eat the dead animals like jackal, vulture. So they eat the died animals. After one or if you see lion, tiger, they will not eat the dead animals. They will eat dead animals, but freshly they will hunt the animal. For example, lion or tiger என்ன பண்ணோம்னா இன்னொரு அனிமலை ஹண்ட் பண்ணி அப்போவே அதை சாப்பிட்றோம். ஸோ 1 day கழிச்சோ ஒரு 2 days கழிச்சோ அந்த டெட் அனிமல்ஸை அந்த லயன் டைகர்லாம் சாப்பிடாது. பட் அந்த மாதிரியான 1 day கழித்து சாப்பிட்ற அந்த அனிமல்ஸ் தான் என்னன்னு சொல்லுவாங்க, ஸ்கேவெஞ்சர்ஸ் அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. ஸோ எக்ஸாம்பிள் வல்ச்சர், ஜாக்கல், குள்ளநரின்னு சொல்லுவாங்க இல்லையா. ஸோ ஹைனா, அந்த மாதிரியான அனிமல்ஸ் they are called as scavengers. And the next one, parasite, Parasites. Parasites. So parasites, they take the blood or they take the food from the living organism. உயிரோட இருக்கிற அந்த ஆர்கானிசம் கிட்ட இருந்து என்ன பண்ணுமா, அது பிளட்டையோ இல்லை ஃபுட்டையோ எடுத்துட்டு அது உயிர் வாழ்ந்துட்டு இருக்கும். So that animals are called as parasites. So you learned how we can classify the animals on the basis of the food that they eat. ஸோ அதோட ஃபுட்டை சாப்பிட்றத விதமாக வச்சு எப்படி நம்ம கிளாஸிஃபை பண்ணுறதுன்னு பார்த்தோம். ஸோ herbivores, if you take, they have very strong and broad teeth at the back of their mouth, and they have a very sharp teeth, broad teeth in the front to cut and bite the grass. அப்போ தான் அந்த grass, so the grass or the plants, they can chew it well, right. And this type of carnivores, they have a very sharp pointed teeth in the front. So they have a sharp canine. So then only they can tear the flesh. And then omnivores, they also have how we have the same type of teeth only they have. And then scavengers, parasites, they are sometimes they have the sucking blood. So suck பண்ற விதமான இருக்கும். So now let's see, there is a organisms that they suck the nectar or suck the blood. For example, mosquito will suck the blood, and the same type butterfly also suck the nectar, that is honey, from the flowers. So you can see here, so here you can see the butterfly has a long tube, right. So, using the long tube, it sucks the nectar, it sucks the honey from the flowers, right. So, this long tube is called proboscis, and the same way the animal, for example rat, squirrel, rabbit, they have a very sharp front teeth. So, using that sharp front teeth, they gnaw the food, they will just gnaw means அப்படியே ரெண்டு பல்லுல வச்சு அதை என்ன பண்ணுவாங்க குறைச்சி. இப்போ எப்படி now you can see the squirrel is eating with the help of that two teeth itself, right. So, they gnaw the food, right. Now, let us write. So, you can see the butterfly have a long tube, right. So, this long tube is known as proboscis, Proboscis. So, in your 1 mark they will ask the butterfly suck nectar through dash. So, you have to write proboscis, 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 this structure. So, this structure is called proboscis. Using that proboscis only, they will suck the nectar, they will suck the honey from the flowers. And animals like squirrel, rat and rabbit, they gnaw the food, G-N-A-W. So, they gnaw the food. What are the animals that gnaw the food? Rat, rabbit, and then squirrel, right. So, these animals, they gnaw the food. So, now you learn how we can classify animals on the basis of the feeding habits. Now, let us see about breathing. So, animal should get proper oxygen to breathe, right. Then only the animal can sustain in that particular habitat, right. So, for example, the polar in polar region, the polar bear should get the oxygen, then only the polar bear can able to survive in that place, right. So, same way we are going to discuss about the breathing habits of the animals. So, here we can say all the animals, mostly all the animals, they take in the oxygen, right, and they give out the carbon dioxide. But we can say all the animals take in oxygen, but we cannot say all the animals will take in the oxygen in the same way, right. So, some animals differ in their taking up the oxygen. For examples of some mammals like human beings and dog, cat, they take in the oxygen through the nose and they breathe through our lungs, nurairal, right. And fish they breathe with the help of gills. And insects like cockroach, ant and grasshopper, so they breathe with the help of tiny air holes on the side of their body called spiracles. So, first we will see what is spiracles. So, you can see the cockroach, right. So, the cockroach have a tiny air holes on the side of their body. So, that tiny air holes are called as spiracles, S-P-I-R-A-C-L-E. So, these spiracles are the tiny holes. Okay. So, these tiny holes are connected to a air tube. So, it is an air tube, that air tube is called trachea. So, we have nose, right. Likewise, the insects have spiracles and the nose is connected with our trachea and our lungs, right. So, the same way the spiracles are connected with the trachea in case of insects. So, in case of the insects. So, insects breathe through the air holes that is present on the side of their body called spiracles. And then these spiracles are connected to form a network of tubes and form a tube, this air tube. This air tube is called as trachea, right. So, likewise you can see in the grasshopper also, in the other beetles also. So, you can see the spiracles, right. The spiracles are connected to a, this is spiracle, the air enters through the spiracle and you can see the spiracle is connected to the trachea, right. So, through that the insects breathe. So, now let us see about earthworms. So, we can say earthworm, they breathe with the help of moist skin. So, you can see this is the mandpulu they will say, right. So, earthworm they breathe with the help of moist skin. So through the skin they breathe. So are we breathing breathing through our skin? No, right? We are breathing with the help of our nose. But earthworms, they breathe with the help of skin. தோல், அந்த தோல் வழியா என்ன பண்ணுமா, இந்த மண்புழு வந்து ஆக்சிஜனை எடுத்துக்குமா. The same way even frog also, frog, தவளை சொல்வாங்க இல்லையா. So frog in water, so in water they breathe with the help of moist skin. சரியா? So when the frog is on the land, landல இருக்கும்போது அது என்ன பண்ணும், நார்மலாக நம்ம எப்படி ப்ரீத் பண்ணுறோமோ அதே மாதிரி தான் ப்ரீத் பண்ணும், லங்ஸில் ப்ரீத் பண்ணும். But when a frog is under water, inside water, so waterல இருக்கும்போது அந்த frog வந்து எதை யூஸ் பண்ணிக்கும், it will use the moist skin, and the skin வழியா தான் frogs will breathe, right? So you may ask, you may get the question like in your higher studies and all. So any two animals that they breathe with the help of moist skin. So you have to write earthworm and frog, right? So now let's see about fish. So some animals, aquatic animals like fish, crab, prawn, so they breathe with the help of gills. So this specialized structure is called gills, G-I-L-L-S. So sometimes when you are buying fish from the market to eat, so they will open and see the side of the, you can see near to that, near to here. So if you open and see means there is a structure like this. So this is called as gills. So through the gills the fish breathe. Not only fish, crab, prawn, so they also breathe with the help of gills. And even tadpoles. Tadpoles are the younger form of the frog, right? Frog வந்து சின்ன ஸ்டேஜில் இருக்கும்போது tadpole இருக்கும். So even tadpole breathe with the help of gills, right? So next we will see. So of course mammals, right? So mammals like monkeys, whale, and even the tiger or human beings, so all the mammals, even the frog when on the land, so we breathe with the help of lungs, right? So some mammals, they take in the oxygen through our nose and we breathe with the help of our lungs. And some birds, they take in the oxygen through the nostrils present on the upper beak. So on the upper beak, you can see the beaks of the birds, right? So அவங்களோட upper beakல வந்து holes இருக்கும். So அந்த holes மூலிமா they take in the oxygen and they give out the carbon dioxide, right? And birds and of course all the mammals, so they breathe with the help of lungs. So now let's see the aquatic animals. As I said, so they breathe with the help of gills. And some animals, for example whale, so if you take whale, so you can see here whale, right? So whale, they breathe with the help of blowholes. Blowholes is nothing but on the whale, on the top of the whale there will be a hole, right? So when a whale want to breathe, want to take in the oxygen, so it will come to the surface of the water. அது வந்து என்ன பண்ணுமா, அந்த கடலுக்கு மேல் மட்டத்தில் வந்து இப்படி வரும்போது அது என்ன பண்ணுமா, அந்த you must have seen here. So here see it is flushing the water, right? So it is not just the water is coming like a fountain, right? So அது என்ன அப்படின்னா அந்த காற்று வந்து அந்த blow holes வழியா வெளியில வரதுனால it is coming like that. So whales breathe with the help of blow holes on the top of its head. அந்த மேற்புறத்துல பாத்தீங்கன்னா ஒரு ஹோல் இருக்கும், that is called as blow holes. So it is called as blow holes. So whales breathe with the help of blow holes, right? Okay children. So almost in this session you learned about the feeding habits of the animals, how the animals are classified on the basis of the food, and also we learned how animals are differ in the breathing, right? So some animals, they use lungs as their breathing organ, and some animals they use as a gills to breathe, and some insects they breathe through the spiracles. So that you learned, and feeding habits, about feeding habits you learned. We can classify the animals in different categories. For example, herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, and you learned two more new things: parasites and scavengers. Scavengers, they eat the dead animals, and parasites, they take up the food and the blood from the living organisms. So that you have learned. So almost with this session is over. So what you have to do is go through the video again and again, so that you will be clear on the concepts, right. So after you watch the video, below the description you can see a Google Drive link. Click that and you will get the subject related study material, question bank and self assessment. Take the self assessment and do the self assessment, and before that copy the notes in your subject note, right. Thank you children for watching. Have a good day.